This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 bridges between our lands.
You're watching ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. We're coming to you live from Manila and Vietnam. Hello, Eliana. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Alma. I'm Eliana Faith Sebastian from EBC Vietnam Bureau, giving you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines, 35 Filipinos who were evacuated from panic-gripped Afghanistan have arrived in the Philippines.
Out of the 9,081 Asian hate victims in the United States, 9.1% or at least 826 are Filipinos, as top Asian American Pacific Islander hate report revealed.
The last surviving senior Khmer Rouge leader began an appeal against his life imprisonment for his role in the genocide committed by the regime in Cambodia more than 4 decades ago.
Malaysia's king on Tuesday urged rival politicians to unite to battle a worsening coronavirus outbreak as the hunt began for a new prime minister, an opposition leader said.
First, the Philippines' doors are open to Afghan refugees following the fall of Afghanistan or Kabul, according to Malacanang presidential spokesperson Harry Roque made this assurance as thousands of Afghans fled Afghanistan after the Taliban fighters took control of the capital. Take a look.
Since time immemorial po, the Philippines has had jurisprudence even before the Convention on Refugees welcoming asylum seekers. No? Sabi nga po ng Korte Suprema sa kaso ng Kukritskin versus Commissioner on Immigration and Deportation, the Philippines will not hesitate to admit individuals fleeing their homelands because of fear of persecution. So welcome po ang mga asylum seekers sa Pilipinas. Nung panahon po ng natanggal ang Tsar of Russia, tinanggap po natin sila. Nung panahon po ng pangalawang pandaigdigang digmaan, tinanggap po natin mga Hudyo sa ating bayan. Lahat po na kinakailangan ng kalinga dahil sila po ay pinipersecute sa kanilang bayan. Meron po kayong lugar dito sa Pilipinas.
President Duterte himself reiterated the Philippines' willingness to accept refugees in his first ever speech before the United Nations General Assembly back in September 2020. Meanwhile, Secretary Roque said he is leaving it to the Department of Foreign Affairs to comment on whether the Philippines will recognize and open diplomatic channels with Afghanistan. According to the UN High Commission for Refugees, at least 400,000 Afghans have been forced from their homes in 2021 by fighting and are displaced within their own country. Many countries are now bracing for a mass influx of refugees as the Taliban reclaim power in Afghanistan. Filipinos in Afghanistan will be able to reach out to authorities and their families after the Philippines' 2 largest telecommunications companies provided free prepaid load and roaming services. In an advisory today, Smart Communications Inc. said all Afghanistan-based Filipinos will receive prepaid load on their smart roaming SIMs and free Roam Lite 250 subscription with 200 megabytes for web surfing and social media usage valid for 3 days. Smart roamers in Afghanistan can also get instant and free access to Smart's data roaming manager by going to roam.smart.com.ph using their smart roaming SIM, according to the company. Alfredo Panlilio, PLDT Incorporated and Smart President and Chief Executive Officer, said the situation in Afghanistan is being monitored and the companies are ready to help fellow Filipinos. Access to communication and information during this time of crisis is of extreme importance. We are also praying for their safety as they await evacuation, according to Mr. Pandillo. In a separate advisory, Globe Telecom said it began extending bill credits for its postpaid users and sending free load for its prepaid and TM users in Afghanistan yesterday.
"35 Filipinos who were evacuated from panic-gripped Afghanistan have arrived in the Philippines," the Department of Foreign Affairs reported Tuesday. The 35 were flown to Doha by their respective companies and joined a DFA chartered flight to Manila 3 days after the Philippine government ordered mandatory repatriation in the country. The plane, also carrying 203 distressed Filipinos from Qatar, arrived at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 1 on Tuesday afternoon. Based on DFA's latest estimate, at least 97 Filipinos are still waiting to be flown out of Kabul, the only feasible exit route in the South Asian state. Foreign Affairs Assistant Secretary Eduardo Meñez assured that the DFA is working non-stop to extricate remaining Filipinos amid uncertainty in the security situation after Kabul fell to Taliban fighters on August 15. The repatriates received $200 financial assistance from the Philippine government and upon arrival underwent the appropriate medical protocols as required by the Department of Health Bureau of Quarantine.
In a related news, the Taliban have pledged not to seek revenge against their opponents in Afghanistan in their first press conference since taking power, as the U.S. said they would hold the insurgents to their promises to respect human rights. Take a look.
مغواړو داسې حکومت او نظام آینده کې جوړ شي چې ټول جهتونه پکې ځان ویني، ټول جهتونه پکې شامل وي او له بېلابېلو جهتونو سره تفاهم موږ ته ورسېږو. د جنګ دوام نه غواړو، د افغانستان سولې او ثبات ته لیواله یو، همدې خاطر مبارزه سوې ده. غواړو نړیوالو ته د امریکا د متحده ایالاتو په شمول ډاډ او اطمینان ورکړو چې د افغانستان له خاورې نه به هیڅ چاته زیان او ضرر متوجه نه وي. همداسې د سیمې هیوادونو ته همدارنګه خپل همسایه هیوادونو ټولو ته ډاډ ورکوو چې موږ اجازه نه ورکوو چې د افغانستان خاوره د ګاونډیو او یا د نورو ملکونو په ضد استعمال سي او یا د هغو په خلاف استعمال سي. په دې اړه غواړو چې ټول نړیوال مطمئن اوسیږي، ډاډه واوسیږي، اسلامي امارت خپلو ژمنو ته متعهد.
Now, the Taliban announcements came Tuesday after the return to Afghanistan of their co-founder, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, crowning the group's astonishing comeback after being ousted in a U.S.-led invasion nearly 20 years ago. In the capital, Kabul, some shops opened and the insurgents told government staff to return to work, though residents reacted cautiously and few women took to the streets. Tens of thousands of people have tried to flee the country to escape the hardline Islamist rule expected under the Taliban or fearing direct retribution for siding with the Western-backed government in power for the past 2 decades.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III on Tuesday called the Commission on Audit's report on deficiencies in the Department of Health's 67.32 billion pesos allocation for the COVID-19 pandemic response as unfair and unjust, saying the issue damaged the dignity of the agency and its workers. During a House hearing on the COA report, Duque said he and other health officials have been losing sleep as COA's 2020 audit report regarding the supposed deficiencies in managing the pandemic funds brought down the agency's morale. He said the DOH was not even given the chance to submit a rejoinder to the audit report that was based on preliminary observations. Let's take a look.
Kaya nga nahihirapan kami, precisely because we have to attend. This is not, I think, COA should also consider that we're not operating under normal circumstances. We're operating under a state of public health emergency. Winarat na ninyo kami. Winarat na ninyo ang dangal ng DOH. Winarat ninyo ang lahat ng mga kasama ko dito. Hindi kami makaharap sa mga tao dahil lahat, ang dami-daming sinasabi, ang dami-daming paratang. Wala pa rin akong tulog. Ilang gabi na po ito. Kasi this is really unfair, unjust. That this judgment has been handed down clearly without giving the DOH the full 60 days within which we should have given our rejoinder and reported on the actions onto their recommendations. So masakit po talaga sa amin ito dahil kami ho ang pangunahing ahensya na humaharap tumutugon sa panahon na ito. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, nagkasakit na ang mga tao ko. Nag-isolate, nag-quarantine, may mga namatay na. Por Diyos, por Santo, maawa naman kayo. Kayo nga ang pumunta rito at kayo ang gumawa. I speak in behalf of my people in the department. Mahirap po talaga itong nangyayari na ito na winarat na ang imahe ng Department of Health.
That said, there are a lot of limitations in doing pre-audit as well. Personnel limitations is, just one of the problems that we encounter. And Mr. Chair, if I may, I just would like to clarify that hindi po kami nagre-release sa media ng mga adverse audit findings or so. We do not. In fact, in my almost 7 years in the Commission, I think I have issued only not more than 10 press releases the entire time. And none of them had to do with telling media the audit findings, except I think twice for performance audit. All the others were clarifications. And in fact, there was one we issued with respect to the DOH audit report, where we said that wala namang findings doon that money was lost due to corruption. No, we have to mention what exactly happened to the budget as allocated by Congress, because that is part of our responsibility to be able to report to Congress how the budget that they authorized is actually used. So yun lang po, but we understand fully well the concerns of DOH. I think the good secretary knows that we do share the concern, not only for people in DOH, but for other sectors as well. In fact, we have relaxed so many regulations in order to address the needs dito sa pandemic na to, no? So we're not close to that. But of course, we still have our duty at the same time to ensure that funds are actually accounted for.
The congressional inquiry was called on orders of Speaker Lord Alan Velasco to clarify the adverse audit observations that COA reported in its 2020 annual audit report for the DOH. In the 2020 DOH AAR, state auditors observed that the DOH had mismanaged at least 67.32 billion pesos in fund allocated by government to combat the public health crisis triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay, let's get out of the ASEAN bloc for a while and go to the island nation of Maldives, where the immigration there has detained the foreigner for abandoning several Indian tourists. We have the details coming in from Steffi Dewan. Hello, Steffi.
Hi, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Maldives immigration has detained a foreign national who had abandoned several Indian tourists that had booked their stay with his establishment, which was later found to be false. A number of Indian tourists, including children that had entered Maldives on Sunday, were abandoned in the capital Male with nowhere to go. They were lingering on a road with their luggages when the police attended them. Immigration Controller Muhammad Ahmad Hussein said via Twitter on Monday evening that a man accused of being in charge of this fraud was brought under immigration's custody at 2 a.m. that morning, of which a total of 27 tourists were involved in this case. These tourists came to Maldives as a transit destination prior to heading to Saudi Arabia due to the travel restrictions related to COVID-19 pandemic. They had paid large amount of money in hotel booking fees for a guest house stay in Kapu Atoll, Maapushi, one of the popular guest house islands. According to Tourist Minister Abdullah Mausum, bringing in foreigners without the legal documents and permits that allows for tourists to stay here in the Maldives cannot be considered as tourism, but rather will be considered as human trafficking. He had added that there was a huge difference in tourism and human trafficking, and had the recent incident was an act of human trafficking. He said he was relieved that authorities were taking action against the perpetrators of this scam incident. And that's my quick update from Maldives. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you for your updates there in Maldives, and let us know some of the happenings going on there over in the island. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Alma. Reporting live from Maldives, this is Steffi Di Juan. We live in interesting times.
The government of Thailand stands by the use of the Sinovac vaccine and its plan to purchase 12 million more doses to combat the Delta variant of COVID-19. Here's Cristel Dumaruco to give us an update. Hello, Cristel.
Hello, Eliana. Good afternoon to you as well as to all our viewers. And yes, that is true. Although there are issues and concerns about the efficacy of the Sinovac vaccine, and a lot of people have questioned the effectiveness of it, the government is still planning to purchase Sinovac vaccine, Eliana. The government has defended the utilization of this vaccine, and it's planned to purchase 12 million more doses to fight the Delta variant of COVID-19 after the latest study showed satisfying results. The public questioned the additional 12 million doses of the vaccine that were included in its August to September COVID-19 vaccine procurement plan, and they called the government to procure mRNA vaccines, which many believe are better than Sinovac. The last Tuesday, Eliana, the Public Health Ministry held a press briefing providing an update on the continued use of Sinovac and its efficacy. Chatwesan Namwat, the Department of Disease Control's Director for Emergency Health Hazards and Diseases, stated all vaccines approved by the World Health Organization, or WHO, which includes Sinovac, are sufficient to lessen critical symptoms and deaths. And this is the main focus of vaccines and should not be devalued. He said that giving vaccines to people en masse as fast as possible is the priority right now to control the spread of disease and reduce loss of life. Namwat said, and I quote, "We need to provide vaccines to as many people as possible. The combination vaccine is the answer to administering the vaccines en masse and enhancing people's immunity faster than a single vaccine with 2 doses. We are going to order 12 million more doses of Sinovac to combine with the limited amount of AstraZeneca." End of quote. The ministry has just finished its study of COVID-19 vaccines efficacy on 3,901 medical staff countrywide, and the test was done for both Sinovac and AstraZeneca, according to Tawisap, the ministry's expert. Dr. Tawisap said regarding the Sinovac vaccine, the results showed that its efficacy in preventing critical illness and death is 98%, and its efficacy in stopping COVID-19 infections is 72% on average. The results of AstraZeneca were even better, with 96% efficiency in preventing infection after 2 doses with an interval of over 14 days among vaccine recipients, falling to 88% after only 1 dose. And that's the quick update here in Thailand. Back to you, Eliana.
Thank you, Crystal, for your updates there. You stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Eliana. You stay safe and healthy as well. Reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. This is Crystal Nicole Di Marucat, and we live in interesting times.
In other news, the last surviving senior Khmer Rouge leader began an appeal against his life imprisonment for his role in the genocide committed by the regime in Cambodia more than 4 decades ago. Let's listen in.
Accused was convicted as a senior leader of the Communist Party of Cambodia who engaged in a joint criminal enterprise which resulted in the commission of crimes against humanity directed against the civilian population of Cambodia, grave breaches of the Geneva Conventions directed against Vietnamese, and genocide against the Vietnamese.
Sampon would like to make a statement toward the end of the appeal hearing. Thank you. Also, Mr. Sampon would like to submit a request. He would like to use the bathroom frequently during the hearing. We lodged our appeal before the Supreme Court chamber, requesting the annulment of this illegal judgment.
បាទថ្ងៃនេះគឺជាថ្ងៃដ៏មានសារៈសំខាន់សម្រាប់ជនរងគ្រោះនៃរបបខ្មែរក្រហមដែលអង្គជំនុំជម្រះតុលាការកំពូលបានបើកសវនាការលើបណ្ដឹងសារទុកនៅក្នុងសំណុំរឿង 002/02 ប្រឆាំងទៅនឹងលោក ខៀវសំផនដែលបានប្តឹងជំទាស់ទៅនឹងសាលក្រមដែលបានកាត់ទោសគាត់ដាក់ពន្ធនាគារអស់មួយជីវិតដោយអង្គជំនុំជម្រះសាលាដំបងពីបទឧក្រិដ្ឋកម្មប្រឆាំងនឹងមនុស្សជាតិឧក្រិដ្ឋកម្មសង្គ្រាមនិងឧក្រិដ្ឋកម្មបល្ល័ង្កពូជសាសន៍ប្រឆាំងទៅនឹងជនជាតិវៀតណាមហើយ
The brutal communist group led by brother number 1, Pol Pot, left 2 million Cambodians dead from overwork, starvation, and mass executions from 1975 to 79. Former Khmer Rouge head of state, Khieu Samphan, 90, is challenging his 2018 conviction for genocide against ethnic minority Vietnamese. His lawyers on Monday argued the UN-backed court had taken a selective approach to witness testimony and not given proper weight to evidence in his favor. They also said the tribunal had convicted him using legal criteria that he couldn't have known when the alleged crimes took place more than 40 years ago. The conviction should be, quote, null and void, said defense lawyer Kong Sam-on. Khieu Samphan was jailed alongside brother number 2, Nuwon Chea, for life for genocide and a litany of other crimes, including forced marriages and rapes. Nuwon Chea died in 2019. The pair were previously handed life sentences by the court in 2014 for crimes against humanity over the violent forced evacuation of Phnom Penh in April 1975, when Khmer Rouge troops drove the population of the capital into rural labor camps.
Dozens of protesters marched to the Royal Thai Police HQ in Bangkok, throwing paint at the entrance in a call to end the use of excessive force against them and demanding Premier Prayut Chan-o-cha resign over his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Retaliate by firing water cannons at the crowd and arrest a couple of protesters. Anti-government rallies held in the past 3 days have been dispersed using rubber bullets, tear gas, and water cannons. The anti-government movement first gained momentum last July. At its peak, it drew tens of thousands to street rallies demanding the resignation of Prayut, a former army chief who came to power via a 2014 coup. But attendance waned this year as the public stayed away due to COVID-19 fears. The kingdom is grappling with its worst virus outbreak so far. The sluggish rollout of Thailand's vaccination program and financial pain from restrictions is heaping political pressure on Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha's government.
And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Iba't ibang sakuna at kalamidad ang nararanasan ng bansa. Kapag may banta ng panganib, kailangang maging alerto at kung kailangang lumikas ay magtungo sa ligtas na lugar. Bilang paghahanda sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, mahalaga na may gobag na dadalhin ang pamilya. Narito ang dapat na nilalaman ng gobag ng isang pamilyang handa. Mahalagang dokumento sa selyadong lalagyan, flashlight, kandila, posporo at silbato, radyo na may bago at ekstrang baterya, first aid kit kasama ang panlunas sa lagnat, LBM, sugat at iba pa. Ang mga gamot na regular na iniinom ng pamilya. Mga gamit para sa mga sanggol, bata, matatanda at may kapansanan. Pera at mga barya. Pagkain na madaling ihanda, di na kailangang lutuin at sapat para sa 3 araw. Inuming tubig sa saradong lalagyan at sapat para sa 3 araw. Telepono, power bank at charger. Lubid, lumang dyaryo, matitibay na lalagyan, damit, kapote, bota at mga sanitary supplies, sleeping bag o banig at mga kumot. Suriin ang mga laman ng gobag kada 3 buwan at palitan ang mga laman nito na malapit ng masira. Ilagay ang gobag sa lugar na madali itong makita at makuha sa oras ng sakuna.
Welcome back. Out of the 9,081 Asian hate victims in the United States, 9.1%, or at least 826, are Filipinos, according to a Stop Asian American Pacific Islander Hate report. Now, the coalition's data released on August 12 covers all incidents reported from March 19 to 2020 to June 2021, a majority of which took place outside of the home and in spaces often open to the public, such as public streets and businesses. Stop AAPI Hate said Chinese have reported more hate incidents at 43.5% than all ethnic groups, followed by Koreans 16.8%, and then Filipinos 9.1%, Japanese 8.6%, and Vietnamese 8.2%. Of all hate incidents, at least 48.1% included at least one hateful statement regarding anti-China or anti-immigrant rhetoric. The coalition added that women make up 63.3% of all reports. Verbal harassment and shunning, or the deliberate avoidance of AAPI, continue to make up the 2 largest proportions of incidents reported at 61 or 63.7% and 16.5% respectively.
The government of Poland has decided to gift more than 501,000 AstraZeneca vaccine doses to Vietnam, said Ambassador to Vietnam Wojciech Jurwal. The Polish diplomat announced the decision at his meeting with Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh on Tuesday. Jurwal said his country is willing to share 3 million COVID-19 vaccine doses with Vietnam. Poland will also donate medical equipment and supplies worth $4 million, scheduled to arrive in Ho Chi Minh City on August 25, Jurwal added. Vietnam is the first non-Europe partner country to receive Poland's vaccine and medical supply donations, according to the diplomat. To date, Vietnam has received more than 19 million doses of vaccines from various sources, of which 15,271,562 doses have been administered, with 1,401,834 people fully vaccinated. In reply, Prime Minister Pham extended sincere thanks for Poland's gifts and willing to share such a huge volume of vaccines with Vietnam, expressing his pleasure at the positive development of the Vietnam-Poland relationship over the past time. Pham suggested both countries should further enhance contacts between high-level leaders, ministries, and localities via flexible formats.
Meanwhile, Malaysia's king urged rival politicians to unite to battle a worsening coronavirus outbreak as the hunt began for a new prime minister, according to an opposition leader. Analysts said the monarch who appoints the premier was trying to push the country's political parties towards forming a unity government following Muhyiddin Yassin's resignation on Monday. Following a turbulent 17 months in office, Muhyiddin finally quit when he lost his parliamentary majority and amid mounting public anger at his government's handling of Malaysia's worst COVID-19 wave. With an election unlikely due to the pandemic and no obvious successor, the country is now set for a period of intense political horse trading before a new government takes shape. After Muhyiddin resigned along with his entire cabinet, the outgoing premier took a parting shot at enemies within his crisis-racked coalition. He has claimed that several MPs who pulled support from him, among them scandal-plagued ex-leader Najib Razak, had been angered that he refused to get corruption cases against them dropped.
5 suspected poachers have been arrested over the beheading of an endangered Sumatran elephant, Indonesian authorities said Tuesday, as the Southeast Asian archipelago's battle with wildlife crime continues. Police in Aceh, on the tip of Sumatra Island, said they nabbed the suspects Monday after a month-long investigation and were still searching for a 6th poacher. The 12-year-old male elephant's rotting carcass was discovered with its head and tusks missing at a palm oil plantation in July. An autopsy found that the animal had also been poisoned, authorities said. One of the arrested suspects killed and then decapitated the elephant, and his accomplices tried to sell pieces of its valuable tusks, Aceh police spokesman Winardi said. We are still looking for a 6th suspect who remains at large, said the official, who, like many Indonesians, goes by one name. The suspects could face up to 10 years behind bars if convicted under Indonesia's conservation law.
A Cambodian court today jailed outspoken union leader Rong Chun for 2 years on incitement charges relating to comments about the country's border. The latest legal case, activists say, is aimed at cracking down on opposition voices. Take a look. Now, Rong Chun, the leader of the Cambodian Confederation of Unions, was arrested in July last year after accusing the government of irregularities over the demarcation of the eastern border with Vietnam. The demarcation process at the Cambodia-Vietnam border has for years been a lightning rod for controversy, fueled by strong anti-Vietnamese sentiment in the kingdom. Rong Chun, who has been in pre-trial detention since his arrest last July, had said that a newly agreed borderline encroaches on some locals' farmland. On Wednesday, the prominent union leader was found guilty of incitement charges by Phnom Penh Municipal Court and sentenced to 2 years in prison, according to Judge Lee Sok during a brief hearing attended by some international diplomats. 2 other activists who were arrested during the protests demanding his release were both sentenced to 20 months in jail. The judge also ordered the trio to jointly pay $100,000 to the government's border committee. It is so disappointing. This is a serious punishment, and the verdict didn't render justice to my 3 clients, according to lawyer Sam So Kong, who added that Rong Chun will appeal the ruling. Rong Chun denied the charges against him during his trial in January, and his supporters slammed the court's ruling today. The court's decision to sentence Rong Chun today is a threat to younger generations to stop thinking about the nation's problems and social issues. Yuka Saso, president of the Cambodia Independent Teachers Association, told reporters outside the court.
Rohingya refugees expelled from Myanmar in a bloody crackdown are to testify in court for the first time Tuesday to urge a full judicial investigation into allegations of war crimes committed against them. A military campaign in Myanmar in 2017 is believed to have killed thousands and forced some 750,000 members of the Muslim minority to flee to refugee camps in Bangladesh, bringing accounts of rape, murder, and arson. The witnesses will testify remotely to court in Argentina, which is considering invoking the principle of universal jurisdiction to bring a case against Myanmar's leaders for genocide and crimes against humanity. The legal premise holds that some acts, including war crimes and crimes against humanity, are so horrific they are not specific to one nation and can be tried anywhere. Argentina's courts have been taken up other universal jurisdiction cases in the past, including in relation to ex-dictator Francisco Franco's rule in Spain and the Falun Gong movement in China. Proceedings against Myanmar and its leaders are already underway at the International Criminal Court and the UN's International Court of Justice. But Tuesday's hearing will be the first time that the Rohingya will have the opportunity to tell a court of all the atrocities that they suffered. Former UN Special Rapporteur in Myanmar, Thomas Oheas, told AFP. ASEAN in Focus will be back after a short break.
Tropical cyclone o bagyo Ang bagyo ay isang uri ng lagay na panahon na nagdudulot ng malalakas at mabibilis na hangin at pag-ulan na maaaring maging sanhi ng matitinding pagbaha, daluyong ng dagat at pag-uho ng lupa. Narito ang mga dapat gawin bago dumating ang bagyo. Una, alamin ang balita ukol sa panahon at mga anunsyong pangkaligtasan. Alamin ang plano ng komunidad sa pagbibigay babala at paglikas. Suriin ang bahay at kumpunihin ang mga mahina at sirang bahagi. Ihanda ang go bag na naglalaman ng mga pangangailangan ng pamilya. Ilikas ang mga alagang hayop sa ligtas na lugar. Kapag inabisuhan ang kinauukulan, mabilis na lumikas sa itinakdang evacuation center. Narito naman ang mga dapat gawin habang may bagyo. Una, maging mahinahon. Manatili sa loob ng bahay o evacuation center at makinig sa pinakabagong balita at taya ng panahon. Patayin ang main switch ng kuryente at valve ng tubig. Gumamit ng flashlight o emergency lamp. Maging maingat sa paggamit ng kandila o gasera. Umiwas sa mga salaming bintana. Ito naman ang dapat gawin pagkatapos ng bagyo. Hintayin ang abiso ng kinauukulan na ligtas ng bumalik sa tahanan. Umiwas sa mga natumbang puno, nasirang gusali at linya ng kuryente. Huwag gumala upang hindi maabala ang mga emergency services. Siguraduhing walang basa o nakababad na outlet o kagamitan bago buksan ang linya ng kuryente. Itapon ang mga naipong tubig sa lata, paso at gulong upang hindi pamahayan ng lamok.
I'm Kanisha at may tutuparin akong isang Sunday letter request ngayong Sabado, August 21 sa Letters and Music, 1 to 3 p.m. Dito lang sa Net 25. See ya!
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. Filipino migrant workers continued to send more money back home in June, sustaining the strong growth of remittances entering the country during the month. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP reported on Monday that remittances that coursed through banks in June reached $2.64 billion. This is the highest monthly value of remittances to the country for the entire 2021. This is also a 7% growth from the $2.465 billion level of remittances in June last year. According to the BSP, the growth in cash remittances in January to June this year came largely from the United States, Malaysia, and South Korea. Meanwhile, in terms of country sources, the U.S. registered the highest share of overall remittances at 40.1% in the first 6 months of 2021, followed by Singapore, Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, Japan, the United Arab Emirates, Canada, South Korea, Qatar, and Taiwan. The combined remittances from these top 10 countries accounted for 78.4% of total cash remittances.
With the health and economic impact of COVID-19 expected to persist next year, the government allocated the biggest chunk of its proposed 5 trillion peso 2022 national Expenditure Program or NEP or NEP to health and education-related programs. In an online press briefing, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque disclosed the said programs, collectively known as the social service sector, will get 38.3% or 1.92 trillion pesos of the 2022 NEP. Take a look.
Sa usaping budget. Ang proposed budget para sa susunod na taon ay nasa 5.024 trillion, ang pinakamataas na budget sa ating kasaysayan. Sa ngayon ay pina-finalize na po at piniprint ang Fiscal Year 2022 National Expenditure Program or NEP at target na maisume ito sa Kongreso sa Lunes, August 23, 2021. Ito po ang mga sektor na makakatanggap na may pinakamataas na alokasyon sa fiscal year 2022. Una, ang social services sector na nasa 1.922 trillion o katumbas ng 38.3% at 15.2% na mas mataas noong 2021. Ang social services sector ang magpopondo sa serbisyong may kinalaman sa kalusugan, tulad ng pagpapatupad ng ating batas na pinasa Universal Healthcare, pagbili ng COVID-19 vaccines, PPEs at iba pa. Kasama rin sa social services sector ang pagpupondo sa mga serbisyong may kinalaman sa edukasyon, tulad ng pagpapatupad ng universal access to quality tertiary education. Susunod naman sa social services sector ang economic services sector na makakatanggap ng 1.474 trillion. Ito ay katumbas ng 29.3% ng proposed budget.
The economic service sector, which includes the government's flagship infrastructure projects, got the second biggest allocation with 1.474 trillion. The rest was allocated to the general public services sector and the defense sector. Roque said the 5.024 trillion peso 2022 NEP is expected to be submitted by DBM to Congress by August 23, and it is currently the biggest NEP, which is equivalent to 22.8% of the country's gross domestic product. In her first tournament back from the Tokyo Olympics, Yuka Saso finished strongly in the Trust Golf Women's Scottish Open that took place over the weekend, giving her needed confidence boost ahead of her next big tournament. Saso, the world number 8 women's golfer right now, put up a 4 under par 68 in the final round on Sunday at the Barney Links in Fife, Scotland, and she finished with a 7 under par 281 in total, good for a share of 15th place with 6 more golfers. The impressive round 4 made up for her iffy performances in days 2 and 3 that nearly bubbled her strong start. Saso started on a high note with a 5 under par 67 in round 1 on Thursday, an impressive stint for someone who has not played that much in a links golf course. However, she barely kept an even par 72 in round 2 on Friday and went 2 over par 74 in round 3 on Saturday, essentially keeping her away from the podium. But her stint on Sunday gave her something positive to cherish ahead of the AIG Women's British Open. Saso began the day with 3 birdies within the first 7 holes, keeping her at a shot at barging into the top 10.
A panda bred via artificial insemination has been born in Singapore Zoo, the first cub to be born in the city-state. Jaja, the zoo's 12-year-old female giant panda, gave birth to the cub after she was artificially inseminated with frozen semen from 13-year-old Kai Kai. Let's watch this.
So cute. Thank you, Eliana, for keeping me company today.
Thank you, Alma. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Eliana Faith Sebastian from EBC Vietnam Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
We'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.
Mapupuno ng saya, impormasyon at inspirasyon ang hapon mo sa Afternoon Power. Handog sa inyo ng Net25. Sasabay sa inyong tanghalian ang inyong Happy Time Barkada at 12 noon. Alamin ang mga pangyayari sa ASEAN nations